Hi, my name is Henry Sue, and I'm a self-taught chef and known to be a kind of a dumpling maker and teacher. I also do pop-ups here in the Bay Area. My focus is on Taiwanese food. Um, and when I say I'm a self-taught chef, I transitioned into the food world kind of late in my 40s. And I got my start at Hodo Foods, which is a local tofu company here in Oakland, California. And I worked there for 11 years. And that's where I kind of learned all about tofu making. But my other passions, as I mentioned, are dumpling making and Taiwanese food in general and education. I also do pop ups here in the Bay Area, and I teach, and I do that sort of stuff. So last year at the Soy and Tofu Festival, I did a couple workshops for tofu making, which I do regularly teach in general. And it's just a fun process in any kind of cooking classes to demystify the process of how a very common item in someone's kitchen or on someone's plate um, is made. So a lot of people know what tofu is. They like tofu or they don't like tofu. But point being, with a class or kind of a workshop or anything related to kind of the educational aspect to tofu, it sort of demystifies the process. And it's always fun to see how folks are surprised how it's made, how easy it can be. And so that's kind of the fun part of uh, workshops like this. For a lot of people who want to learn how to make tofu, it's kind of, at least in my experience, it's a mixed bag here. A lot of Asians or Asian Americans who were raised with tofu um, in their daily lives, often those people who want to learn about making tofu are have just never thought about it, and then when they do think about how they like to cook and they like to learn how to cook, tofu is kind of an aside. So, and then for a lot of my non-Asian students who like to learn about tofu making, there is kind of a big push for a lot of DIYers, people who want to be in full control of how their food is made, where it's sourced, control of ingredients, and feeling good about understanding how those components are put together. A lot of people will cook with tofu, um, but rarely will people know how to make the actual tofu. So it's just, I think, for folks that like to cook or kind of DIY people, it's a fun process because it may have crossed your mind, but most likely it hasn't crossed your mind to make it. So I think very curious people are interested in learning how to make tofu. So there are many ways of making tofu, um, and the main part is that it's about the coagulant. So depending on the country of origin, whether it's China or Japan or Korea, countries that have traditionally had tofu, there's different ways of making it. And so for folks that are doing different types of processes, they may have different challenges. The most traditional or one of the oldest ways of making tofu is doing it with gypsum or calcium sulfate. And this particular method of making tofu, what may trip people up is that it's a very short process to make the tofu, but it takes a little bit of a finesse and a little bit of information about how to put it together. And it's a little tricky. And it's hard to explain in words, and it's easier to do in a demo format. So it's nice to work with someone and kind of go through the process, because then it's more easily demystified. So, if you're curious and love tofu, which hopefully you are if you're at the Soy and Tofu Festival this year, um, we'll be doing a couple workshops and tasting and talking tofu and talking about the history and making it in person. So, hopefully, you can come. We're going to be doing 2 workshops, and they should be tasty and entertaining and educational. So, hope to see you there.